Have you ever had one of those days where nothing you could do was right? You felt like you walked into the Walking Dead universe? Well, this has been me lately. I can't do anything right. I can't even use my editor properly. Are you fighting the squirrels, and you're fighting the slugs, and you're fighting the chipmunks, and you're fighting with nature, and you say, I can't win, I just quit? Hell's bells, you don't just quit. You keep on fighting. You keep on keeping on. I'm trying this voiceover. It probably won't work because I've been having issues across the board in the last number of videos. But right now I'm using a headset. It's just earplugs with a little microphone. Hopefully it'll work. But this year I decided to do nothing but brassicas, more or less. Am I insane? I got the cabbage moth butterfly that comes out as soon as the snow melts, and it doesn't leave until after we're under a foot of snow. Yes, folks, cabbage moth butterfly. You could try to avoid them. And I've tried over the years, and I almost gave up on brassicas, and I said, hails, bales, no, I got more fight in me. I may be coming up on my 6th decade, closer to my 7th decade of life, but I ain't giving up on trying to grow brassicas. I'm going to grow that doggone cabbage if it's the last thing I do. I am in for it. I am going to win. I am going to be a survivor like on The Walking Dead. I may be like The Walking Dead, but I'm going to be a survivor. Yes, I am. So I started the seedlings way back in February, and I potted up. Now these are in pots, but their pots are sitting inside a styrofoam box. Actually, they're from Butcher Box when I get my meat delivered, and it comes delivered in a styrofoam box. Well, I decided that I was going to, because they're heat sensitive, I was going to set the planter boxes inside the styrofoam box with the covering, the shade cloth covering over it, to keep the cabbage moth butterfly away, to keep the heat down from these plants. And so far, so good. It's been growing all summer. We have had 90 plus Fahrenheit temperatures for a number of days, and so far so good. I've had to remember to water these plants, and I've only found some eggs once that a cabbage moth butterfly must have landed on the shade cloth, and the eggs will go down the shade cloth through and get onto your plants. So you still have to check your plants daily, folks. Check them daily if you want to have cabbages without worms all over them. I don't know about you folks, but I quite often have editing issues lately. When I first got my editing software years ago as a gift from one of my children, I had no issues whatsoever. Everything worked beautifully, and as the editing software aged and they kept wanting me to update by $80 or $60 or $50 or $40, every time I open and close the software, it'll say, do you want to update? And I go, no. Do you want to, not update, but upgrade? And they secretly update themselves because they've reached in and taken stuff away from me that I originally had, that was originally paid for within the software. And yes, I'm venting again about this stupid software, but this is the reason I'm making this video about the same kind of vegetables that I've been growing from July till August, because I had major issues on this previous video that I sent out, and I'm not happy with it. And I didn't want to just redo it and repost it, the same doggone video again. And, you folks you'll wonder, why is she doing that? We already watched it. The 11 folks that did watch it, I appreciate and thank you very much. You don't know how that warms my heart. But I didn't want to send out another one, of the same thing without, explaining what the heck I'm doing. Well, to do this, you need to make the video. You need to process it. You need to upload it, and I could privatize this one and see if I still have issues before I release it, which I'm going to do. And if there are no issues, then I may release it and just leave them both up there. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I got to do something. I can't leave that one just standalone. Terrible video that didn't work out right, because it's just terrible. Have you ever been so congested, folks, that you can't tell a basil plant from an oregano plant from a thyme plant? Well, sort of basil I get, but oregano and thyme, oh boy, I think this is oregano, but it could be thyme. Who the heck knows? But it's growing beautifully out there, so I have no issues at all with this plant. Although my summer squash was growing beautifully. Here, I'll put a picture up. Oh, right, I almost forgot. It went powdery mildew. We had some really good temperatures, and then we jacked up to like 90s. And then we went back down to 80s, and then 70s. And today, we're sitting at 60s, 65. We're not going above 65. And in the nighttime, we're going to be like 45. Oh my goodness, my poor garden it's just so confused. It's more confused than I am, folks. The thing is, the powdery mildew showed up before the rains. We've had 2 days of rain now. Yesterday and day before yesterday. But the powdery mildew showed up last week when we were in the high 90s Fahrenheit, high 30s Celsius. And the plant was stressed out. It just couldn't take it. It says, I can't take this kind of crazy weather that you're giving me. What are you trying to do to me? It's saying. So I'm just going to give it up. I had like 7 zucchinis on one plant and 6 zucchinis on the other. The third plant was already going, so I just kept cutting away the mildewy leaves and cutting away the mildewy leaves because the zucchinis weren't growing. They grow to about 2 inches and then they start to yellow at the tip. So they're not going. And they were pollinated. So I got maybe a handful of zucchinis before this struck. So I knew my plants were on the way out, and the powdery mildew was going to take them out, and it was going to take out my beans next to it if I let it go much longer. So I kept cutting away the diseased leaves and getting rid of them. Now I'm down to one little plant with one little zucchini out of about 12 zucchini that could have been. The little engine that could isn't going to be. So what do? I planted another zucchini plant. Now this was sowed before the before the temperatures bottomed out. Oh, hopefully this is just it's not going to be a long drawn out cold spell. I think it's the remnants of the last hurricane down south, Eloise or whatever the name it was. So I had radishes planted in there. In the upper right hand corner, I got a summer squash zucchini planted there. So, and if the weather holds and gets back to some sort of normal, I should be going okay into fall and harvest time because it's a quick growing plant. Within a month it'll be giving me zucchini if the heat holds out. And this is the third sowing of radishes that I've done. I removed 2 of the affected summer squash zucchini plants and planted some more radishes, which popped up right away. And I've got an okra plant that I had no. It's about 3 inches tall. It gave me one little flower, a miniature flower, because the doggone plant was stunted. Well, it got stunted because of the temperature. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And okra likes hot weather. It doesn't like up, down, up, down. It's not a bouncy ball. It likes consistent, warm weather, which I've tried over the years to grow, and not much luck. But it gave me a tiny little okra flower, which, if you don't take a picture of it, they're like the hibiscus type plants. If you don't take a picture of it quickly, it'll close up and drop off. And if it's pollinated, it'll give you an okra. Well, something pollinated this baby flower, and it's given me one okra on this okra plant that's about 3 inches tall, and it should be a couple of feet tall, because okra plants get very tall. And it's given me an okra, one little okra. It's like the engine that could, yet again. So when you're ready to give up and you see this okra, hot weather loving plant give you an okra, you don't give up, folks. You don't. You keep going. And it's growing in a number 10 can to boot. Yes, folks, a number 10 can. Did you watch that episode on The Walking Dead where Carl was sitting on the roof eating chocolate pudding out of a number 10 can? Yeah, that's the size can he was eating chocolate pudding out of. So, yeah, I've been watching the reruns of The Walking Dead on DVDs and enjoying them. That's one of my favorite shows. You know, I go to sleep with The Walking Dead. I go to sleep with zombies in my ear. I can close my eye. I've watched those DVDs so many times that I can close my eyes and I know exactly what's going on in the show, and I fall right to sleep with zombies eating the face off of somebody. Yes, I do, because I know that's not real. Thank goodness that's not real. And it does not give me nightmares. But I go to sleep with it until the credits roll or something wakes me up. Or some loud noise. I just roll over, turn it off, and go right back to sleep. Yeah, that's a little FYI for you. I bet you didn't think you'd get to know. Stay tuned, there may be more. So, for the last few years, I've been growing Irish cobbler potatoes. And this year, I thought I'd be special and grow some russet potatoes. You know, those nice big potatoes that you can get, meaty potatoes, make a great jacket potato that they call it. I call it a baked potato with good stuff on top of it. I don't know why they call it jacket, but anyway, whatever reason, that's what I'm growing this year. And this was back in July, this picture, and it was starting to yellow, and it already flowered a long time ago. Flowers dropped off, so I was just waiting for the plant to, become the walking plant dead, and the zombie potato. And because I know there are potatoes under that ground, once all those leaves go yellow, and then they go brown, and then they go limp, and then they lay down and they go to rest for the end of time. Yes, they do. And so I'll show you the next round of the metamorphosis of the russet potato. Okay, and there's more yellow and starting to look pretty poorly, and they're on their way out, and they were supposed to be harvested on August 15th. So was my mini melon, my pixie melon. August 15th was their due date on the packet, but you sort of got to judge plants from when they want to be harvested, and these are coming close. And this one in particular there was going to be harvested yesterday or today, but then the rains came, so I don't want to harvest a muddy bucket of potatoes or even try and lift waterlogged bucket of potatoes, so I got to wait for them to dry out, which should happen within the next few days. We'll see on the tomato harvest. I don't know what's going on with the cucumbers this year. Maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the up and down temperatures. They don't like exorbitant heat, but they don't like cold either. They like regular temperature. They're sort of like me. Between 70 and 80 Fahrenheit, I'm good. But above that, I'm not so good. And below that, I'm definitely not so good. So I got 2 little cucumbers on this vine that I'm growing in this small dish tub, washing tub, that I thought I would try this year because I saw another YouTuber. She can't lift heavy things anymore. It's just sort of like I'm getting to be. And she grows stuff like this in these washing tubs. And I thought, what a grand idea, because I see her doing it, and she makes videos about it. And so I thought, maybe I'll give this a try and see if it works for me. Well, the problem is my cucumber plant was stunted by the time it got out, and I had one of those water seedling starter things. But if you leave them in there too long, indoors when you're growing to try and get a head start on summer, and you're growing out, then the darn roots gather up in the matting that is the wicking bed, and then you pull it apart, and you've damaged the roots on the good darn mat. Anyway, yeah, you know what I wanted to say. But I corrected myself very quickly. Yeah, nobody heard that, right? Nobody. So I'm not going to give up. I planted it anyway. So out of 6 cucumber plants, I got 1 growing. Maybe 2. I think it's 2 out there now. I have 2 cucumbers, 1 on each plant. Let's see how they grow. I did, however, harvest my romaine lettuce, some of it, and it's growing beautifully. And the first time it's grown so well, I've left it alone this year. Instead of picking come again, I've decided to take my romaine lettuce to the top and grow it to a good harvest size where I can actually get a good bowl of lettuce for my homemade dressing. Here, take a look. Isn't that just the prettiest lettuce you've ever seen, folks? It's the best lettuce I've ever seen growing in my garden, let me tell you. Let me tell you that. They're not walking dead at all. They are growing and they are beautiful. And you know how hard it was to not pull any off? I pulled a couple off for a sandwich, and that was it. I think four leaves. And then I left it alone. And now I've pulled off more of the bottom leaves because it's growing a good amount now. And I had a salad. Oh my goodness. I don't buy store-bought lettuce because it has something on it, sprayed on it or grown on it, I don't know. But when it touches my lips, even though it's been fully washed, it burns my lips. So I know there's some sort of something on it, or it's diseased, and they're telling you not to eat your iceberg lettuce, your romaine lettuce. I love romaine lettuce best. So the only way I'll eat it is grow it myself. And well, I live in Canada, so you get a short supply of romaine lettuce unless I grow it indoors. But I can't afford one of those machines, those indoor machines that they have little plugs and they have air tanks and lights and grow hydroponically machines. I can't afford those. Those are just way too expensive. I wish I could, but I can't. But anyway, look at this lettuce, folks. I am so proud of this lettuce, and it's been under shade cloth, and it's not in a styrofoam container, but it is resting up against one. So it is somewhat protected, and I keep it covered as well. But I'm enjoying my salad with my homemade dressing. Okay, I started 2 pixie melons this year, and I had it in this one good sized container. One of them died back and the other one didn't, and that's my pixie melon. I apologize for the bad picture, but it's in there under that covering. And those are onion bags, empty onion bags that I have it set in, and it's sitting on top of a brick, so it's not sitting directly on the soil, getting mushy. But I wanted to try and see if I could grow a cantaloupe, because that's what this is. It's like a miniature cantaloupe. So upon harvesting, I will cut it and show you my pixie melon. I'm very happy with this. If I grow it again, I'm going to grow each one in its own container and have at least 6 or 7 growing, maybe, if I can find the room to put them. Each year I say I'm not going to grow again, because lugging the water in the containers. So I used to fill up my watering can from the kitchen and lug it. I can't use the hose because it's shut off in the basement, and I'd have to crawl underneath the deck to turn it on, because that's where they put the spigot underneath my deck. So I'd have to bend over, and no, we're not doing that. So I lug it from my kitchen sink to the back patio, which isn't very far, but when you get older, it gets heavy. And so I lug it that way in containers and then put it into my pitcher that way. Just tilt it into my watering can, and then go from my watering can, I tilt into a smaller watering can. That's easier for me to lug around. Yes, it's a process, folks. It's a process. So as soon as my tomato plant set its fruit, I covered it in tulle, because the chipmunks love those red tomatoes. I watch that chipmunk. He walks across my deck. He jumps to the neighbor. He gets on my back fence, or my side fence, where they have their tomato plants growing on the other side of the fence. Well, their tomato plants are nice and tall, like over 5 feet tall. And the chipmunk goes over there, because their tomato plants are so heavy with tomatoes, they're leaning on my fence. So he just walks across the side fence, grabs the tomato, takes off with it, chews it up, comes back, grabs another tomato, and so forth and so on. You get the idea, folks. Well, he ain't grabbing my tomatoes, because if I'm going to lug that bloody water from the kitchen outside to my deck, trying not to fall or trip over my own feet. He ain't getting my tomatoes. No, he's not. So I'm going to go through the work of covering up everything. But let me tell you, it's a sad state of affairs. You got tulle covering everything, and what's not covered in tulle, it's covered in shade cloth. You can't see your plants, or your plants are under lock and key. I have wire baskets for my plants. Yes, I do. I have wire baskets for my plants to keep either the birds out, the squirrels out. The squirrels like to dig in it. The chipmunks love to dig in it. And if it isn't something they love to eat, they love to bury the sunflower seeds that they get from my neighbor's yard that falls down off of their birdhouse. So they have a birdhouse that they keep full of birdseed next door. The birds come in and get it, and they spill birdseed all over. Chipmunks come and clean up the ground. They come and they bury the seeds into my planter boxes. And then I have all these rogue sunflowers growing out of my planter box. Well, I have to pull them up and throw them in the yard because I don't want them coming back trying to get the seeds that they think are still going to be there. Because, they're not sure. They don't know that I water that box, which, makes those seeds grow. Yeah, it's a wild kingdom over here, and I just, if I could go through all of this at my age, folks, don't quit, don't give in. August, we're rounding the corner there to harvest time and bounty, however little or however big it is. Mine's not going to be very big, but by George, I'm going to have some cabbage. Yes, I am. I may not have a lot of anything else. I may have a stunted okra, one okra off a plant this year, and I'll be happy with that one okra. I may have just a handful of tomatoes, but by George, I'm going to be happy with that. I do have a hunch. I just have a feeling upon harvesting my potatoes will be a grand harvest. Hopefully. But I'll show it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll show it. So hopefully my potatoes aren't the Walking Dead potatoes. Hopefully not. And hopefully my pixie melon is nice and juicy and worth the effort of covering it, putting it into onion bags and covering it with tulle to keep the birds from flying there pecking at it. Hopefully. All we could do is do that. What else are we going to do? You got the weather to deal with. You got critters to deal with. They're all dealing with the weather. They're dealing with whatever it is they're dealing with because they are ravishing our gardens. When I watch YouTube videos about other gardeners having the same sort of issues all over the world, then, yeah, something's going on somewhere. The animals they know something we don't. But I have a hunch we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But I say, this one gardener says, don't quit. Don't quit. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. No matter how much you want, if you got to start over, you start over. You got to grow in the wintertime, you grow in the wintertime. I got celery growing, and I'm going to grow some more tomatoes over the winter, indoors again. Because I was harvesting for 2 years off of one tomato plant indoors. Never went outside that tomato, but I was harvesting tomatoes. And for a while there, it was like 2 and 3 a week, but they were little cherry tomatoes. But it was the nicest tasting tomato in the dead of winter when it's minus 30 out there and the snow is just piling up and the wind is blowing and howling like the devil. And I just sort of pick a tomato off the vine on the indoors, and that makes it all worthwhile. Just getting up, it makes it all worthwhile. Thank you.